Okay, so this week I've had quite a tough week. I've been cancelled by Hong Kong. Um, and I'm just going to set the scene a little bit so that you can understand how that's even possible. So on YouTube, I have a channel that has 19,000 subscribers, and on Instagram, I had 70,000 followers. Where I post the same content that I do on Facebook and on my YouTube Shorts and on a TikTok account, but for some reason it was on Instagram that I gained the followers. So it's 70,000 followers on Instagram. Last week I had 11 million views in 30 days. So even though 70,000 followers is quite small, I'd say I still managed to have a large reach. And when you look at my analytics, 77% of my followers are Hong Kong based, which means that I get millions and millions of views per month from Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is quite a small space, right? There's 7 million people in Hong Kong. So even small creators can, within small spaces, have large impact. And that's how I found myself in a situation where I can at least semi-justify saying that I was cancelled, because I was largely talked about this week. So last Sunday, I was just looking at my comments and I started getting a bad feeling. Littered in with the usual comments were a lot of anti-white sentiment. Typical white girl, white privilege, we don't like you guys, go home, etc. That was, you always get a few random comments, but that, to be getting quite a few of them and on such a specific unsavory theme, didn't feel good. I had no idea what had made this arise. I knew it wasn't nice, but I've now been doing this for 5 months. I thought it would be gone. On Monday I woke up, I'd lost 500 followers on Instagram. In the scheme of things, that's not a lot, but I'd never lost followers before. So I knew like something was up. I'm in a growth trajectory currently. So I knew like something's going on, I'm being talked about somewhere, or something's been uncovered, or there's been a horrible misunderstanding. I also considered the fact that it was bots, or I just knew something wasn't right. This was Monday. I had things to do on Monday. On Monday evening, my very, very first brand deal happened. So after 6 months of relentlessly working hard, making no money, on Monday night it was my first modest brand deal that was occurring. And when I arrived, the lady said, "Don't worry, we're really still happy to work with you." And I thought, what does that? I didn't ask because I didn't want to disrupt the positive atmosphere, but I knew something's going on and I don't like it. But again, I had no idea what it was about. And then on Tuesday I woke up and I was very sick. It's possible some of this was related and I just didn't know it, I knew it was in my interest to leave my phone at home because it wasn't making me feel good. I went out to go to the doctor's. That took a long time. When I came back, I checked my laptop. The first thing I saw was that my work had called me into head office. I was going to have to go to a meeting with head office. That's never good news. And if it is good news, they're probably going to imply that in the email. I knew I was in trouble, and I knew it had something to do with what was going on online, because I knew that I was doing fine at my job. Then I checked my phone and honestly it was horrible. I had about 30 messages from the most random people saying, "Don't worry, I hope you're okay." And when I say random, I really mean random. Like someone I'd been on a date with 3 months ago suddenly checking in, like someone from home, like from 2 years below me at school, a lot of that. And I also had a voice note from an old employer who was saying to me, and he was being very sympathetic, he was just looking out for me. He said, "We've been contacted about you being told that you've been causing trouble in Hong Kong, and that we should reconsider, that basically we should be more careful with who we hire in the future. And he was just checking in, like, I hope you're okay, Kate. I knew I was in trouble. I made a few calls because I was very panicked about this meeting I was being called into at work, and I was talking to someone in the company about it, and they said, Kate, you're being talked about at the company, and you're being talked about throughout the centres, and the centres are talking to each other. You are being talked about negatively, and just to make you aware, the company has been contacted, and the details of where you work are now online. And of course, I was already feeling rubbish, but my heart sunk, and I decided I needed to investigate the situation. Sorry, I was also told, so you need to prepare for the fact that you're being let go. So then I went online, and the first place I found my name was on Threads, which is a social media I'm not on, and then I found myself on some Chinese social media that I'm not on, and basically there was a lot of sentiment that had appeared about how I was, I guess you could say, that I was causing trouble in Hong Kong, and that I felt entitled to do that because I'm white and because I'm British, and that I was disrespecting the culture purposefully for views. And there was quite a lot of, it's not just that this had been said, there was quite a lot of agreement of that sentiment. And it seemed to have appeared quite quickly. So you can imagine, as someone who always felt I had a good relationship with my audience, who always felt that I was producing, bordered on bland content, never mind controversial, that you can imagine my shock that all of this anger had appeared at once, and it was very, very scary. I was very obviously upset that I was considered a racist, that I was considered a nuisance to a culture that I liked. I was also very worried for myself, my immediate self, as someone who had been warned I was losing my job, but also just for the long-term consequences of someone who now is in articles where the name Kate Bar exists and the name racist right beside it. I didn't feel good about that. I didn't feel good about it at all. Things got a bit silly. Anyway, I got very emotional, and I posted online an emotional video, which has since been taken down. But let's talk about what was being said about me. What is either the catalyst for all of this, or was just the final straw, is that I had posted a video on Sunday morning where I had gone to a street vendor, as all of my videos are about, and he was selling chestnuts, and I had never tried it before, so I wasn't sure if I'd like it. So I asked, can I just have one? And then I offered to pay. He said no thank you. I offered to pay again. He said no thank you. So I got it for free. I can break this down. I'm very happy to explain what happened there. So first of all, I tried to pay with a 500 Hong Kong dollar note, which is £50. It's a lot of money. The reason for that is simple. I have a full-time job. I'm a teacher. As a consequence, it's completely impractical for me to film every day just because I post every day. I have to bulk create my content. And so that's what I do. Whenever I decide today I'm going to film, I try to film like 10 at once. And so I go to my ATM prior to that, and I take out 500 per each season of shooting. And that's why in about 1 of 10 videos, you'll see that I hand over a 500. It's not what I ask them at the ATM, but it's just obviously what comes out the ATM. That's my budget for the season. And so I understand that I do it, it's just truthfully, it's just never something I've even thought of, but I do understand that that's maybe an inconvenience to people because you're asking them for a lot of change, and it's not my intention to cause that inconvenience. It just didn't occur to me. But also, why I only ask for a small amount, it's for the same reason. I'm going to be filming a lot of food reviews. I can't eat the full portions all at once, and realistically I can't carry around like a whole bunch of food portions in my bag all at once. So the choice is either like you ask for a smaller portion that you then get to enjoy, or you ask for a big portion but immediately, you know, as soon as the camera's off, you throw it in the bin. And I don't have no big moral qualm with throwing food in the bin, you know, but it's just silly in my mind not to ask, oh, can I have a smaller portion, but I'll pay you for the full portion. That's a minor win in my mind for the street vendor, you know, from a technical profit perspective, and it's a win for me for sure. I'm not going to do that again because it leads to confusion, and perhaps it also leads to inconvenience on the part of the street vendor, which is never my intention. So I'm happy to never do it again, but it was difficult to read criticism about what that was perceived as. What it was perceived as is me purposefully putting someone in a difficult position to force them or coerce them into giving me free food. And apparently this is something that Westerners do a lot. I can't attest as to whether this is something Westerners do a lot. I genuinely can't. That's not a stereotype I'm familiar with. It's not something I do. Or at least I've never ever done it intentionally. I have the money, as you can see in the video. I've budgeted in my mind that I'm going to lose that money for the day. It's such a small amount of money to part with, you know, 20, 30 Hong Kong dollars in the scheme of things. And also I want business owners to do well. So I've never had the agenda of, you know, trying to get free things from hardworking street vendors ever. And I didn't walk away from that encounter thinking, oh, brilliant, I've just got something for free. It was just not in my mind at all. And that's really all I can say on that matter. I'm not really sure how things got so out of proportion, but I accept that, you know, it was maybe a bit silly. Another part of the conversation was that I constantly engage in rage bait. And a lot of examples were used, but the biggest example and the fairest example was that there's one video where I'm walking, so the escalator's going down, but I'm walking up it. And what can I say, that did happen. And I've never been under the illusion that it's respectable, or, you know, that you're meant to walk up escalators that go down. It's not how you walk on escalators in Scotland. This is not down to a cultural difference. It was just, in my mind, you know, you make so many videos, and you're always kind of looking for like a small way that justifies like what makes this slightly interesting. For me, the camera angle of like me staying in shot whilst like forces were acting against me being in shot was mildly interesting. I've played around with that as a vlogger on my main YouTube channel before, like camera angles. That's really as far as it went in my mind. I knew I was being a bit cheeky, but that's why I chose to do it on a day where the escalator was quiet, so that it wasn't like, it wasn't like holding people up. And I definitely wasn't thinking this will enrage people. I thought the comments would be about like the silliness of it, as opposed to the fact that I was being, outrageously disrespectful. Yeah, so that was silly of me for sure. And I guess I can't really justify it because I knew I was breaking the rules. I just decided that the rule was small enough, but that the cool shot was worth it enough that it wasn't that big a deal. It turned out to be a big deal. But the rage bait claims continue. Like, there's another example where I'm outside Ocean Park, but I say, hello, today I'm at Disneyland. And apparently I'm doing that to rage bait. I'm really sorry, that's just called having a sense of humour. The sign behind me is so big saying Ocean Park, and it's so silly for someone to say I'm at Disneyland. The joke is that I'm an idiot for saying it, you know what I mean? Examples like that I can't really take seriously, that I'm purposefully engaging in rage bait. It's not, it's that I'm engaging in basic fun, like a basic sense of humour. Whatever. By far the most legitimate criticism that I read, and criticism that I've levied against myself, is that I don't speak Cantonese. That is true. I do not speak Cantonese. I speak English pretty well, and that's my only language that I speak. I can tell you the reasoning that I have for not speaking Cantonese. So I knew for a very long time I wanted to live abroad for a year of my life. As someone who is from Scotland but had lived in London, I knew that had really done wonders for me. I come from rural Scotland, and then I lived in London, one of the most interesting cities in the world, and like a million miles away from where I grew up, but it's still technically the same country. So I always had it in my mind, like, if London did a lot for you as someone from rural Scotland, then moving abroad for a year would certainly do a lot for you. You'd find it interesting, but also it would push you as a person. And that was very appealing to me. So I looked up how to live abroad for a year. TEFL is obviously something that comes up pretty quickly when you look these things up. And then when I was considering where I wanted to be a teacher abroad, Tokyo for a long time interested me, but when I was realistic with myself, I thought, I'm never going to be that good at learning a second language, because at school when I tried to learn French, I wasn't good at that, and French is probably the easiest language for an English person to learn. So that's why I chose Hong Kong. Actually, there was lots of other reasons why Hong Kong was appealing, but that's why I plumped with Hong Kong in the end. It was like, I'm not going to put myself through, as someone who knows what my skill sets are, and one of them isn't learning languages, it would be silly to put myself in an environment where very few people speak English. That's setting yourself up to fail, but also realistically, that's just not, that kind of country wouldn't want you, right? One of the official languages of Hong Kong is English. I was never under the illusion that everyone in Hong Kong spoke English. I never have any expectations whilst I'm here in Hong Kong that just because I don't speak Cantonese, it means people should speak English to me. Of course, I find myself occasionally in situations where people don't speak English, and I accept instantaneously that that's my problem. I'm in their space, and I make a goofy face to articulate that I'm an idiot for not being able to speak to them in their own language, and we communicate non-verbally, and that's it in my mind. I only ever came to Hong Kong to stay here a year. I've been so consistent with that. I always knew before I came that I would only be in Hong Kong for 1 year. I told my employer that, because I wanted them to consider that when they were accepting me or not accepting me. They did accept me on that grounds. I even said it on my online profile that ended up being exposed, I am here for 1 year. And the reason for that is because I'm Scottish. I've always felt Scottish. I've always felt I have a kind of a long-term moral duty to be in Scotland that's somewhat affected by the fact I have a disabled sister. You know, I have long-term responsibilities to be close to her. In my mind, being in Hong Kong was a 1 year novel experience that, you know, if I hated it, don't worry about it. You're only here for 1 year. If you love it, fantastic. Take what you love home with you. I was never going to stay for more than 1 year, and I was always within that year going to exist basically exclusively within an expat community. My job is, I work exclusively with expats, and we speak exclusively in English. That's actually the rule. It's an English immersion environment. I live with expats. That means the friends I've met are expats. And that is a legitimate side of Hong Kong. It's an international city. I always knew that was the Hong Kong I'd be a part of for this year. I never ever believed that that meant I was getting to know the heart of Hong Kong. I never ever believed that I would walk away from this year getting to say I'd fully experienced Hong Kong, or that I knew it in detail. I always knew that I was here for a year as an outsider, and I was always happy with those terms. Those terms suited me. So I accept, of course, I understand. And I understood even before I came to Hong Kong, you know, it would be good to learn the language. I always understood it. I just made a decision that I could, that, you know, that really wouldn't be, that would be spending a lot of effort to get me to a very basic level that just as I get to, I'm inevitably leaving Hong Kong forever. And I made a choice that I would rather spend my year spending an effort on other things. If you are thinking to yourself, well, okay, that's fine from your perspective, but what about others? Maybe you've been selfish. Maybe that's a selfish perspective. I can only agree with you. It was a conscious choice to be selfish, actually. And I'm not good at languages, so I could have exhausted myself learning Cantonese, and at this stage I'd only be at a very basic level. But I understand on a moral level and a polite level that there are reasons why maybe I should have chose that path, and I feel a bit silly. So that's all I can say on that. Yeah, I don't speak Cantonese. I understand that it would have been nice if I'd learned Cantonese. Yeah. And then, not with everyone, for some people the criticism was left there. As we've dissected that criticism, some of it's pretty legit, some of it I hope is, you will agree with me, is nonsense. But for some people this became like a broader topic of conversation, and it wasn't just about me as an individual, it was about what I represented. And I represented British entitlement, white privilege, a refusal of immigrants to integrate properly into Hong Kong, a refusal for Cantonese culture to be respected, and also I represented a huge worry because I'm a teacher, and clearly I'm a terrible teacher based on what people have seen. If I can just, talk about that very briefly first. I'm not a terrible teacher. We're monitored quite closely at my company, and people don't seem to think I'm a terrible teacher. That my direct boss above me doesn't seem to be giving me that feedback. I have a quota, not quota, but when kids come into my class, there's courses they're expected to pass. All my kids pass my courses. Far more important to me than this is that my kids are always happy to see me, not just in my class, but also, you know, you're constantly bumping into them outside of class. You know, you hear Miss Kate before you see them, and there's so much joy when they see me. I know that I create an environment where they learn good things. They learn what they're meant to learn from an academic perspective. They learn good values, but they also learn that Miss Kate is a person that they can feel safe around, and that Miss Kate is good fun, and that learning is fun. I'm very proud of the fact that at a very young age I instill in kids this idea that it's exciting to learn. So I'm not a bad teacher. Also, none of my children are watching my content. Technically, I teach 2 to 12-year-olds. In reality, 95% of my kids are 2 to 6. Even 12-year-olds aren't on Instagram, or at least they're not meant to be. My kids aren't watching my content. The idea that you could even make a 4-year-old watch my content is ridiculous. You know, it's not what interests them. I cannot compete with Cocomelon. So I'm not a bad influence on my kids from the perspective that they're learning bad lessons from what they watch about me online. They're not watching me. And I'm not a bad teacher in person, so I just can't accept it. It's not fair. And these two worlds should never have, people should never have felt entitled to make them collide. It's definitely not fair on my kids, but it's not fair on me either. You know, I felt threatened that a job I love and that, you know, kids I love were gonna be taken away from me. So the other thing that people were talking about was that, you know, like that this is tied into colonialism, white privilege, etc., etc. Look, I'm just not smart enough, essentially, to hugely comment on that. Of course, Hong Kong has its own reasons for having a complicated history with Britain. I think just on the internet in general, people are obviously having lots of conversations about these types of things nowadays. I'm on no conscious level trying to get things easier in life just because I'm white or British. I have no belief that my culture is better than Hong Kong culture. There's differences, and you can subdivide some things into some things are better, some things are worse, but overall I have a deep appreciation for Hong Kong culture. I don't have anything to say about this except that I've been kind of dragged into a conversation that's very complicated, and I don't have the skill set or the intellect to really figure out if there's any element of it that's valid or not. All I can say is that it's just was pretty blindsided by it because it was not what I was going for. Yeah. There's also conversations about like about, you know, maybe some of this misunderstanding maybe some of this hasn't come from the fact that I'm a rude person. It might be that actually it's because I'm neurodiverse, and that's where some of the misunderstandings have come from. Again, I actually just don't have the self-awareness to know if any of this has come down to me being someone with Asperger's. The truth is, I do find myself in life sometimes getting into situations where I'm confused as to what happened, and that could be what's happened here. But I also think when you break down logically my reasonings for why everything online has occurred, I think it's pretty logical. I don't know. Yeah, so then I got emotional because my whole world had fell apart, and I went online and I started crying, and I'm very regretful of that. for two reasons. The first reason is that it's not fair to impose that on other people. People are already living difficult lives. People already have a lot to get on with and a lot to think about. If they're just scrolling and they suddenly see someone having a breakdown, it's not nice to just push that into people's lives. It's not nice. I don't want to make people's lives feel more uncomfortable than it is. I don't want people to start feeling angry about where they come from because so sorry, because I'm online crying saying like not everyone in Hong Kong's being nice. I want to promote the idea that Hong Kong is a nice place to live because it's true, that's a fact, but also because I want the people of Hong Kong to feel nice about their home. So I certainly didn't contribute positively in that regard. But also, I spread misinformation. I said that I didn't actually say I am getting fired, but I sort of said I know what that means. You know, I'm getting fired, by which I meant I presume I'm getting fired. Whatever, same effect. I did presume I was getting fired, and I wasn't going off no information for the record, but I wasn't going off being told that officially by the company. I spread misinformation about the company because I didn't get fired. I was just talked to about what had happened, and that's putting a company in a very needlessly difficult situation. This business that I work for has actually given me everything that I wanted from it. When I wanted to be a TEFL teacher for a year, I wanted to experience teaching without having to go through formal teaching training to see if it was for me. And then if it was, I could then go home and get official qualifications. This job gave me that experience. I wanted to live abroad for a year, but to kind of have like a built-in community that I could just slip into. This job gave me that. I wanted to be around kids before I considered whether I wanted to be a mum myself. I never grew up with little kids. I had a hunch I would enjoy it, but I didn't know for sure. This job gave me that. It gave me something substantial for my CV. It's given me everything I wanted from the experience, actually. And I have not repaid that well at all. I am regretful of that and embarrassed by that. Anyway, that's my story. It was a horrible, horrible week. So these comments are about me online forever. That sentiment about me does still exist in Hong Kong, but I feel a lot better about it. Now that I've calmed down, I understand. Okay, Kate, so if your name is Googled today, this is the first thing that comes up. Within 2 years, it will be something else, And also, how many people are Googling you? Can you please get over yourself? Do you know what I mean? Also, worst case scenarios, someone Googles me, they read something horrible, and I say to them, look, just watch the content for yourself and make your own mind up. Do you know what I mean? I'm certainly not super proud of all of my content, but I do believe a lot of this is a misunderstanding. I also believe there's political elements to this that are kind of just beyond me. And I felt very sorry for myself because it's well, it's not my fault I'm British, it's not my fault I'm white. That's true, it's not. And international politics is complicated, but now that I've calmed down a bit, I think probably, no, I don't, there's still undisputably more benefits to being British and more benefits to being white than there are negatives. So whatever, I can deal with this in the long run. I won't. For me, the main takeaway long term is, you know, it's called being a micro-influencer when you're the size I am. And you don't have any formal training to become one. You are not employed by anyone. And also, I'm a teacher here in Hong Kong. If I mess up as a teacher or need advice, I'm surrounded by other teachers and bosses that can help me with that. When I mess up as a content creator, I'm completely alone. I have not been trained on how to be this. I have no friends who are in this field. I have no colleagues. So this was a new experience for me that I experienced completely by myself, and I experienced all at once. It just came out of nowhere. And as a consequence, I didn't handle it well, and I'm going to forgive myself for that because it was the first time. But I'm also going to, not forgive myself if this happens a second time, because now I have things to learn. And life's tough. And sometimes we're just, sometimes we're just going through our day and something happens that makes it a lot tougher. That's my story. Yeah. I'm still dissecting it, but also I'm kind of over it. My boss said something, or actually it was the CEO of the company I worked for. He said something that I really liked when I was having the meeting with him. He said, one way or another, this will be over in 48 hours. And he was right. It is over. Because nothing on the internet means that much for very long. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to take a week off, as I've said, and then I'm just going to return to normal. Lots of love, guys.